Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of Sports Shorts, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance here with you at Scoreboards. That's not Joel Davis. That is Tommy Christ and old TK back here on Pelican. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Ronnie. Good to see you. I appreciate you having me on.
You got the summer baseball tan going on.
Yeah, and you got the beard look, the virus beard look, so it's good to see you. Good to be here.
You too, man. Yeah, this is my golf Corona. I keep saying next week I'm going to shave it. Next week I'm going to shave it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I make it to the 4th of July, but I think it's coming soon.
Well, I tried the beard thing, a month or so into the thing, and it was coming out, and I'm like thinking, no, this doesn't look that good. But I got to give it a couple more days. So I gave it a couple more days, and one morning I just looked in the mirror and said, it's got to go.
Right.
Boom, it went.
It's going to be interesting when I finally do shave it. Look, every time it looks like sports is coming, it's around the corner, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. In the last week or so, we've seen, after 2 weeks ago, there was a lot more positive vibes. It looked like the NBA was going to be coming back, July 31st. And Major League Baseball was talking, and obviously football. They were opening up the training camps. College football, LSU and others were, getting their workouts and strength and conditioning programs back. It looked like we were heading to a fall or an August of somewhat normalcy. But here we are 2 weeks later, and quite frankly, I think we've got more questions now than we've ever had before. NBA's having, player issues, whether they're talking about, I don't know if I want to be sequestered. Should we even be playing right now during this time of all this social injustice and all the things that are going on around the country with that? You've got football teams, a lot of players testing positive with coronavirus and the quarantine, and you see high schools shutting down, voluntary workouts and facilities. It seems like we're taking the big 2 steps back in the last 7 to 8 days.
Well, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody. Even the experts, as they say. And, I said on one of my podcasts many weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, sooner or later you're going to have to put a bunch of people together and see what happens. Okay, the analogy I made was some 10 years ago when they first put Wi-Fi in Tiger Stadium at LSU. And then everybody got in there, they thought they put enough in. But until you put 90,000 people in there and 89,000 people have a phone, remember all the problems, nobody could use the phone, it was jamming up. Well, they didn't know until they put 90,000 in there whether they had enough Wi-Fi. They learned they didn't, they made the correction, and everything's a lot better now. Same thing with this virus. Sooner or later you're going to have to play a basketball game, play a football game, fill the arena, and then go from there and be ready to get treated if you get sick. If you're at risk or you're one of these people who have underlying issues, don't go. I think we got to do that. And all of these people, the NBA, MLB, at this point for them, I think they have to try to do something, but they have to know that they may have to stop it. They may have to slam the brakes. Boom, we'll get ready for next year. And then just let history dictate. There was no champion in 2020 or whatever the case might be. Let history tell the future people what happened. There was a virus pandemic and they weren't able to play the season. Now, football, everybody wants football. There's a lot of money involved in college football. I think we're going to have football, but I don't know what it's going to look like. Because what if LSU plays Texas San Antonio in the opener, and then a bunch of LSU players test positive Monday morning? Do they cancel the game with Texas, or does Texas not be able to come in? There's so many unknowns. But I think you got to try to do it. You can't, there's car wrecks every day in Baton Rouge, but people still get in their car and drive. Mm-hmm. So I think you got to just try to move forward, manage the risk. Okay, be ready to manage the risk. If you're 83 years old and you got underlying health issues and you're not a healthy person, don't go to the game, and go from there. And then be ready to treat it if you get sick. Most people that have it, they've survived it. The vast majority have survived. Mm-hmm. I have a friend of mine. He and his wife both tested positive. He had all the symptoms, the shakiness, the fever, the headaches, and couldn't breathe. Told me it was the sickest he's ever been in his life. His wife tested positive, didn't have one symptom, and they sleep in the same bed every night, live in the same home. 2-3 weeks later, he was feeling fine, she was feeling fine, they both tested negative. Okay, so you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you would think if they're in the same house that one had,
Right.
But so I think people just got to move forward, manage the risk, whether that's LSU, whatever school, the high school folks. I mean, be prepared that something could go wrong, and what you do anyway. When you went to high school, didn't y'all practice a fire drill?
Sure.
Because they set off the alarm, and everybody, here's where you go if we get a fire. Well, they were managing the risk in case there was a fire. They wanted the kids to know what to do. Same thing here. Be prepared by medical people that if we have an outbreak or someone gets very symptomatic and becomes ill, got to be rushed to the hospital, be prepared for that.
I think the thing that people have to admit to, and whether it's federal, whether it's state, local officials, college, is everybody has to be able to say, I'm not sure. I don't really know. I'm going with the information I'm given and making my best guess, best decision. We do know this, that there's no life worth living if all you're doing is cooped up in your home, right? And not to mention we can't afford that.
Right.
Look
at the hit in the Baton Rouge economy.
Right. I mean, everybody's feeling it in every level of society. And the bottom line is that, even if you stay at home and do nothing, it's not going to create a solution. It's not going to all of a sudden there's going to be a shot that we're going to get and nobody's going to ever get it again. We're probably going to be dealing with this forever. Sweden took the mentality, the country of Sweden took the herd mentality, right? Which was, we're not going to limit anything. Hey, if you stay home. If you're high risk, stay home. And they have kind of taken the idea that, if the majority of the herd has the antibody, if the majority of the herd gets it, then it's going to work itself out. And they have actually, after a spike, have started to kind of come back down with limited rules and regulations. And I don't want to say they let the strong survive and the weak go by the wayside, because they did put things in place. They had some issues over in Sweden where they had a lot of problems with their nursing homes, and they admitted they made some mistakes early on with that. But they basically, in essence, went with the attitude that, hey, if you're in this category, if you have these symptoms, if you have these issues, stay home, self-quarantine, blah, blah, blah. The rest of us got to move along and do our thing. And it started to, it's working for them.
Everybody's guessing, even the experts, and people are having trouble believing them now because the boy cried wolf. They've been saying all this stuff since February, and it hadn't been the case. So, I mean, I think you got to move on. I mean, HIV surfaced in about 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. There's still no vaccine for that. So they think they're going to make a vaccine in 12 months. Medical people, I have heard, I listen to people that know far more than me, say they're not going to have a vaccine in 12 months, and they cite the fact that there's nothing for the HIV virus, which is basically 30 years or more
35
old now.
plus
35 years old now. So, but man, when I hear these athletic directors in the Big Ten say, we're going to be playing football, but we're going to have 20% capacity. You don't know that. Be quiet. You're making a fool out of yourself, because then if it's anything other than 20, you didn't know what you were talking about in May or whenever you said it. I think everybody just needs to sit back, prepare. Scott Woodard's preparing at LSU. He made a comment the other day about might have to wear a mask. He's just getting that out there in case it has to happen instead of putting it out there August 25th. I think they're preparing, and they're going to put a full stadium out there unless they're told that they can't. And I think that's what everybody's got to do.
I think most LSU fans would be fine with wearing a mask. You don't want to, but I think if they said, look, the option is you either go to the game or you're not, you're going to have to wear a mask upon entry.
There will people that will wear a mask.
There are people that will wear a mask.
Well, they're talking about also having to get to the game 9 hours before kickoff, so you can have your temperature taken and you can be tested, and then you got contact tracing. I mean, could be
I ain't getting to the game 9 hours before kickoff. I can tell you that.
Some people will.
I'm working.
Some people will. Okay,
right.
But it's like you said. Some people want to see LSU football, or whoever their favorite school is. But manage the risk. Go forward. Be ready. Be prepared. Have a plan if something goes wrong.
They go through your bag, and you go through a metal detector and all that now, and it sometimes creates long lines. If you have that same thing in place, and then you also shoot them with the gun on the forehead to get their temperature, it'll slow it down, but not that much. I mean, look, I go to the doctor's office. We've all done different things. You go in certain buildings, or they're going to take your temperature. it takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's not
literally. You could be standing in line, and there could be somebody getting your temperature before you come into to the metal detector. So I think there's a way to make it work so that it's not horrible, like a 5-hour.
They got to figure that out, and I'm sure the second week would be better than the first,
right? Of
because
course,
they'll make a hit list. Okay, this worked, this didn't.
If we want to have athletics in the future moving forward, because this is a new day and age, and we're going to be dealing with the COVID-19 conversation, I believe, for years to come. Like I said, there's not going to be a vaccine. And then, oh, by the way, is there going to be a vaccine that actually works? Because there's flu vaccines. They work at 48%. 48% of the people that get a flu vaccine, it helps them not have a flu that year. So, and we've been knowing about the flu for 100 years, and they've been working on these vaccines every year. All of a sudden, out of nowhere comes COVID-19. They're working on it a number of months, and we expect that there's going to be a vaccine that's going to be 100% positive. Of course not. So just because you have a flu shot still means you can get the flu. Just because you're going to have a COVID-19 vaccine at some point in the future doesn't mean you can't get it. So I think we're going to be having this COVID conversation. I think the idea of shaking hands and people sitting next to each other and masks in businesses, those are going to be questions that we're going to be dealing with for years to come. If you want to have athletics, though, you're going to have to roll the dice. They're going to have to let people into the stadium. You can take all the precautions you want. You want to wear gloves, you want to wear a mask, whatever. But they have to make money, and they have to make it this fall. They've already lost millions. These schools cannot go without a season or two. They can't. Or sports is going to go away.
We've seen a little more than a handful of universities drop soccer, drop wrestling program.
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that's I think there's 15 or 18 schools that have eliminated at least one sport. If they don't play football this fall, that's going to be a whole lot more. So, it's money, but that's part of it. And I think
those little getting rid of soccer, get rid of women's golf or whatever. That's like throwing a
deck chair off the Titanic. It's still going down.
Any analogy you want to use? I mean, that's just to get them by for a month. To just get by for a couple months. And quite frankly, to set up the precedent of what's to come. Because we talk about LSU and on this show and being here in Baton Rouge, and everybody, you talk about LSU, talk about the Saints. LSU has the capacity, really financially, to sit out a year. They could not play this year, and they can get by, right? They've got enough reserves. They've got enough, boosters and TAF money and things like that to where they could get by for a year. Not many other schools do. 15, 20 schools like that maybe in the country. But if you're Southeastern, you're alma mater, or you're Nichols, or you're Louisiana Tech, you don't have those reserves. You don't have that ability. You all of a sudden don't play a football season that creates money for to support your campus and to support those other athletic programs. They're going to just go away, and I don't know if they'll ever come back.
Well, if they go away, they won't come back. So it's a very strange thing when you look forward to see what could really happen. And there have been people who said exactly what you just said. If there's no football, I just said there'll be a lot of programs at schools across the country that are going to get eliminated. And then, if you come back, then what happens to ticket prices? And is that, $3 bottle of water now $6 in the concession stand? I mean, there's layers of stuff involved here. But, I tell you, though, people, everybody can do what they want to do, but, I've been in situations just in the last couple of weeks, a bunch of people sitting around, all of a sudden somebody coughs and everybody's head turns.
Yep.
Because we've all been brainwashed, whether we want to say we are or not. Everybody's head kind of turns when 3 months ago you wouldn't even know that they coughed, So I just think it's all about the money. These schools are going to do everything they can to try to play football. I think you may start seeing more and more, the schedules are going to change, okay, especially in the minor sports, LSU might not go to South Carolina and play volleyball. They may go to Thibodeau or go to Lafayette down into New Orleans. And, because the money will be different, so they're going to have to react differently. So you may see some of that, yet those student athletes still have a chance to play sports, I mean, the changes could be infinity. I mean, we don't even know how many might have to take place. But I think you got to go forward. Put some people in Tiger Stadium, see what happens. And be ready to shut it down if you have to.
It's crazy. I'll give you one example before we go to break. Raging Cajuns, right? UL Lafayette, Sun Belt Conference school, very successful, been to a bowl game many of the last, 8 years. they lose millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, every year with athletics, and that's with the revenue coming in. And they are, like all schools in Louisiana, not named LSU, they are supported by the state funding, tuition, fees, the different fees and things that the students pay, the surcharges and whatnot goes to athletics. If they're already losing, say, $20 million, UL Lafayette last year, if they don't have the revenue from those football suites and tickets and parking and the big team that they play that they get $500,000 for to go get beat up by 40 points, if they don't have that revenue, they're going to lose $30 million. And they can't afford to lose $30 million. They can barely afford to lose the 20 that they're losing now. So, that's what we're talking about. These schools that were not named LSU in the state of Louisiana, all of them are losing millions of dollars every year. But they're going to lose even more millions if they have zero revenue on top of that coming in, because you're still going to have the scholarships, you're still going to have the coaches' salaries, you got to feed them, you got to have the trainers and all that are still going on right now in preparation of a season that may not happen.
And then on the flip side of that, because of what has happened to the economy in Louisiana,
right. And Louisiana's not
the price of oil, the barrel of oil, right. That guy that maybe would have donated that $50,000 every year to ULL or to Nichols, that 50 might have turned into 10. So then you don't have to, not only do you not sell tickets and have fans and they sold a concession stand, some of your donors are going to have to scale back because of what has happened.
Donors are scaling back.
Barrel of oil.
Revenue for the state.
And just look in Baton Rouge, you look around how many businesses have not survived this pandemic. Right. I'm talking small businesses who might have supported a high school game or a high school team and said, I'll pay $100 for a sign on a baseball fence at the high school. Next year, they might say, I can't do that.
Right. And you know what? They're going to have a built-in excuse now, and you can't really say anything about it, right? Hey, COVID, COVID.
I'm strapped. Well, you can't say, no, you're not.
Right. I mean, so now everybody's got the COVID excuse to not pay or not support, and it's that trickle-down effect, man, that is just going to affect everything. And at the end of the day, as much as we love sports, it's not a necessity to survive.
But we just keep touching up on our golf game, and we'll just have our own sports.
I tell you what, though.
I got to say this on camera. This man's golf game now compared to some 3 years ago, he is 100% better, and that's what I witnessed. That's not a rumor. That's not somebody telling me, because we played a couple of weeks back. Much better golfer.
I appreciate that, but that 80 I shot at TPC a few weeks ago, I've played 20 rounds since, so it's fallen off my handicap. So I went from like a 13.4 to a 15.1 when that 80 fell off. So I got to get back in there, shoot some better rounds, But all right, we'll take a break here on Sports Shorts. TK, Tommy Krysan in the house, filling in for Joel Davis today. Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge Casino. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on at LSU. We know that there was a report came out, a number of cases of COVID. Clemson the same way. How schools are dealing with it. There are parishes in Louisiana that are shutting down high school football workouts indefinitely. Will there be a high school football season? That and a whole lot more. Don't go in. We'll be back with more right after this.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino. As we tape here on Monday, June 22nd, it's Pistol Pete Maravich's birthday. He would have been, let's see, he would have been, let me do some quick Menard High math, 73.
73?
73 today. Kind of put that in perspective, Skip Bertman's 82. Nick Saban, I believe, is 67. So 73 years old. Pete Maravich died on January 5th, 1988. So nearly over 32 years ago. What was your memory of him? Did you ever get to see? You saw him play for the Jazz in New Orleans.
Well, I was running the Covenant Rec department. He was living in Covenant.
That's right.
I got to see him a whole lot. In fact, January 5th was a Thursday. That Saturday was the opening of Biddy basketball for the Covenant Rec department. He was coaching an 8-year-old team called the Pistols. His oldest son, Jason, was on that team. Josh was littler. And we had this big grand opening ceremony and all of that. I remember like yesterday. I pulled up at Steve Hendry's office in Covenant. About 4 or 5 guys were all going to go have lunch. And this one guy who knew Pete very well came walking from his business to the parking lot. And he couldn't even talk, and all of a sudden he said, "I just got a call that Pete Maravich died in California and dropped dead of a heart attack." And we all, I'm getting goosebumps now.
Right.
Because we canceled the thing that day. So I was lucky. One of my childhood idols, I was the first kid in the neighborhood to try to dribble it through my legs, all that stuff. And then I got to be around him a lot in the last couple of years. We don't have enough time. I got some really incredibly funny stories that occurred, like the one time.
Give me one.
All right, he's coaching this 8-year-old team. I hear about this like a week later. His dad tells me he had his son who was on Pete's team, and they were practicing, and they were all having dinner and talking about practicing. The little kid, Mikey, tells his dad, says, our coach, this Jason's daddy, he doesn't know anything about basketball. Because he had shot a layup and he finger rolled it over the front of the rim, and Pete was like, "No, you go use the backboard, you follow through with your wrist." He said, and his dad's like, "Believe me, Jason's daddy knows something about basketball." But to the kid,
right.
That was just Jason's daddy. That
right.
was a little bit tall. He didn't know that he'd scored 44.2 a night at LSU, But he said, and I got a bunch more like that. But the greatest offensive basketball player ever, according to Red Auerbach, who is a pretty good person to make a statement like that. And, the stories at LSU, and they weren't all good stories in Pete's life. I mean, there was some demons that he battled throughout his life up until his death. But I was lucky to get to know him and go to his house. He had a half-court basketball goal, back glass, backboard, the whole thing in his house.
Which was a big deal. Back then.
When they had the parquet floor from the Boston Garden, and we're shooting hoops. It was pretty cool. But a college record that'll never be broke.
44.2, which was single season in career, right?
That's not going to be broke because nobody's going to play that in 3 years. You know, so that's one of those records you can say it's not going to get broke.
Yeah, I was passing through Covington the other day, and I saw that Pete Maravich LLC or whatever.
Pistol Pete.
Pistol Pete. I guess it's a family business.
Actually,
what is that?
That would be Pete's wife, Jackie, married Jimbo McLaughlin, whose son was a football player at LSU and tragically died a couple of years ago. Jimbo is in charge of Pistol Pete Enterprises.
Gotcha.
Videos.
So
and
anything
stuff.
related
and I think
to
his
Pistol
two
Pete.
sons have a role too. Jason and Joshua have a role as well. Of course, Joshua played a little basketball for Coach Brady at LSU. And I don't know how active that thing is. I know that movie was made years ago, and I know they tried to sell videos and whatnot, and even pictures, and he's got a ton of memorabilia too. So I don't know how active that is on a daily basis. But there's a sign, you probably drove right by that sign,
drove by that
the
sign.
Gallagher's or something.
Yeah.
Hey, bingo. See?
No, I today, like I said, would have been Pete Maravich's 73rd birthday, and I remember seeing him in person in the Superdome with the Jazz when I was a little kid. I think I went to a game or two, or I really only remember a game or two. Probably got the tickets from Shoetown or something for free. And I just remember, it's showtime, and the announcer would announce that, towards the end of the game, and that's when he would start going between the legs, around the back, doing all the globetrottery kind of tricks. And it's just a shame he blew out his knee when he did in the late 70s, or we might have had a chance to see him win a title with the Celtics.
I was there the night he scored 68 against the Knicks and fouled out with about 5 minutes to go. I'm not one of the 100,000 that say I was there.
Right.
It wasn't. I was there. And one cool thing, when he played for the Jazz in New Orleans, in the Domes, they started off playing in the Municipal Auditorium. When they played in the Dome, he would take a shower and blow dry his hair at halftime. He was so vain, he wanted to look good. So when he came out in the second half, he looked exactly like he did when he came out of the game.
Awesome.
Never listening to the coaches and that, blow drying his hair to come out in the second half because he wanted to look good.
That's funny. Yeah, they actually replayed the game where he had 68 against the Knicks on the Fox New Orleans, the channel where the Pelicans play, about a month ago or so. And I got a text from a buddy of mine in Miami who actually is right now in the hospital suffering with COVID, and he was a huge Pete Maravich fan. Anytime there was anything Pete Maravich, he would send me a text. I'd send him a text, and so the game was grainy. I mean, it was just an old tape, but he did it against Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson was one of the defensive stars for the Knicks
Walt
at
Frazier,
the time.
Earl Monroe.
They're really good, all-time greats on that Knicks team. And there was no three-point line, and so the game was different. The way they played defense was different because there was no three-point line. They really packed it in and just said, "Hey, shoot it," because it's only two. Rather you shoot a 20-footer for two and then shoot a 5-footer for two. So they played a different style where now you see there's all that space for the mid-range jumpers in between because they're out there guarding a three or they're packing it in, and then there's all that middle space. But he just had it's just easy for him.
Yeah, no, and it was remarkable to watch him play basketball. For you young folks out there, Google Pete Maravich highlights. There's a bunch of stuff on YouTube and all that where you could just look up the 10 greatest passes he ever threw. And
right.
Your jaw will hit the floor when you watch some of the things he did with the basketball.
To me, Steph Curry is a very similar comp.
Curry shoots better than Pete did.
Right, but in the sense that how they play with that, they're not playing above the rim. They both can shoot any shot, make any shot, get a shot off over anybody, and the ease with which they play. That's why I think there's a similarity to the two of them.
Pete Maravich was every bit of 6'5". I think the NBA actually said he was 6'5.5", and that was unheard of for a guy that handled the ball like that, coming out of LSU, going to the Atlanta Hawks, and then into the NBA. He was offered a contract by the Globetrotters. At every bit of 6'5". Back then you were a forward if you were 6'5",
right.
But he had the ball skills that were just unmatched. He scored a lot of points because he shot a lot. He did not shoot as well as Curry does, but he takes a lot more shots, and he'd end up with the 30 points in an NBA game.
Well, it's cool stuff, and like you said, if you go on YouTube and all that and check it out, it is pretty fun. Speaking of the NBA, right now they're planning to move forward with sequestering everybody in Orlando in July, and then playing at the end of the month. Initially, that was met with a lot of acceptance. Now we're starting to hear some hemming and hawing going on by both, by the players. They don't necessarily want to be sequestered in Orlando, in a hotel type setting, a resort type setting. And you got some players that are very caught up in what's going on with Black Lives Matter movements around the country, and they're questioning whether this is the right time. I'm going to say this. If you are one that is really big in the Black Lives Matter movement and you're trying to make a difference, you're trying to raise money, you're trying to bring awareness and attention, well, what better way to do it than in the NBA, right? Playing, having microphones in front of your face, being able to get your point across, kneel, stand, sit, whatever it is you want to do, wear whatever wristband you want to wear. To me, that would help the cause more than just protesting in Sacramento, walking down a city street, right?
Yeah, I think if some of this energy would be redirected, they could accomplish more. you know, and maybe, and believe me, I'm not any expert on society's issues, but maybe focus on what can happen going forward instead of, you know, something that happened 50 years ago, 60 years ago, or tearing some statue down because that person did something or said something. The Troy Middleton Library, no longer the name at LSU because of a letter he wrote in the early 60s. Well, once you take all this energy, because you're not supposed to alter history. You're supposed to learn from history. You're supposed to learn the good and the bad from history and make yourself better going forward. So my whole thing would be these people who, you know, the social injustice, the murder that happened to the guy in Minneapolis, what can we do to go forward to make things better instead of worrying about backward? I think their energy would be better served for their mission if they focused on positive and going forward.
You know, we had a black president that was elected to 2 terms in the White House and was elected easily, might add. I want to say the African American population in the United States as a whole is about 13-14%. So obviously they weren't the only ones that voted for Barack Obama, right? So there is support. This isn't a racist country. You have racist individuals, but that's where we get into a problem is lumping everyone into categories, right? As a white man, I can't make assumptions about a minority, nor can a minority make an assumption about white people. One bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. And when we go back to the whole George Floyd case, if you dig into it, there was personal animosity between that policeman and George Floyd, who worked together at a nightclub for a long time. George Floyd had a long rap sheet. I mean, there's a whole lot more to it than just white cops doing things to black people. And I wish we would take a step back, because I think as a society we have grown tremendously and continue to take better steps moving forward. But I do believe that and you know, again, learning from mistakes, if we punish every historical figure that owned a slave, wrote about a slave, made a comment off the cuff, you know, at some point, blah, 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 then he who has, you know, the first stone, what's the whole saying? Yeah, but because we've heard things about whether Martin Luther King and all the alleged affairs he had, and, you know, and Muhammad and all the affairs he had, which is in the Malcolm X movie. The point is that, but we don't, you can't demonize one person, not demonize another. We have to let bygones be bygones. We got to let the history be the history, and let's move forward in a positive manner, all side by side.
And where do you draw the line? You know, I mean, you'd have to change a lot of street names in this country if you can't have, especially in the South, if you can't have a Confederate general street or school names. Or we see Lehigh, right?
Lehigh's gone. That'll be something else, right?
Yeah. So I mean, but where do you draw? You know, they're not going to. You know, Elmer Fudd can't use his gun in a cartoon no more. You know, Aunt Jemima.
By the way,
syrup.
By the way,
where do you draw? Or White Castle hamburgers? Do they have to change the name? Where do you stop?
I made an investment in my future. I went and bought 6 big bottles of Aunt Jemima syrup. Yeah. And I'm just going to stick them in the pantry and leave them there. And then 20 years from now,
put them on eBay.
eBay retirement. You know, I mean, 20 years from now, they're going to be a collector's item, right? Now, there won't be syrup in the bottle. I mean, again, I don't know what it'll turn into.
You know, where do you draw
Uncle
the line?
Ben's, I bought boxes of that stuff.
I mean, you know, again, as you said, and I said, go forward. Make a difference for next month, not 1962.
Yeah, it's in some ways, I feel like we've made a lot of steps forward in race relations over the years.
Oh, I agree with that.
I mean, none more obviously than obviously having an African American president that was largely elected upon the backs of white voters. So, you know, I don't want us to take a step back. I want us to keep moving forward, and obviously there's things that we can do together. But the NBA is talking about, you know, there's certain players that are saying, you know, is now the time to even play? And I say this: if all NBA players gave 1% of their salary, put it in a pot to help whatever they believe can help move you know, Black Lives Matters into a positive way, or put together some educational programs around the country to help educate, you know, whatever they want to teach, it would make a difference. But not playing, or I think, is probably not the right thing to do.
Well, you know, sooner or later, you know, and this was another thing that I talked about months ago, you can't have everything in November. You can't have MLB, the
Yeah, you have to
Masters,
space it out, right.
NBA, college football, NFL, Wimbledon. You can't have everything in November. Number one, there's not enough TV trucks to go around. It's really not, okay? So sooner or later, you got to say, hey, we have to scrap this season. We're going to prepare. Because then, if the NBA plays into November, then when do they start the next season? You're altering future schedule. Sooner or later, you got to say, hey, we tried. We studied all the information we could. We're not going to play. We hope to have our regular season start in November, first week in November, like it would have normally done. Same thing with baseball, which I said a month ago we're not going to have baseball this year, and I still don't think we will. But sooner or later, you just got to say, hey, we didn't have it. Things happen. I mean, boom, let history reflect that going forward.
We'll take a break. We come back. We'll talk about Major League Baseball and the proposal that is a take it or leave it right now on the table by the owners. I spoke with
players won't even vote.
I spoke with a Major League Baseball bench coach for the Kansas City Royals on Friday, or actually Thursday night, and I'll tell you what he said and what the Royals organization's doing to prepare for a possible season. We'll also talk some LSU football and college football. Where do they go from here after all of these positive tests are coming in left and right this summer as players are getting back on campus? We'll be back with more Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge right after this.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome back, everybody. He's Tommy Chrysan, the old left-hander from Southeastern for the Lions. Last season was, 1982?
Yeah.
At the Southeastern, and you played against the UNO Privateers when they were rolling.
Golden Spice Award winner,
August
Schmidt.
Schmidt.
That short. Mike Callejas, good friend of mine to this day. It was a catcher, and of course, I feel great to be friends with Ron Maestri, who was a Hall of Fame,
in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, a legendary coach, and he and I'll chat every now and then on Facebook or comment on each other's picture or whatever. So yeah, UNO was the real deal back then.
Yeah,
and Tulane was very good.
Yeah, no, Tulane was really good.
They were winning the Metro Conference every year, and LSU wasn't.
It was
much
Tulane
to talk
and
about
Florida
back
State
then.
going back and forth in the Metro Conference back then.
A lot of battles. Some great Tulane teams. When Tulane and UNO played back then,
the Pelican Cup
in New Orleans, I mean, whatever stadium they were at, there was thousands of people. You know, when we played them, there was 220 people at the game. But if they played each other, that was a big deal.
And there was a young bad boy for UNO named Ron Rance.
Ronnie Rance.
Who I usually did a handful or more games each year. I went to elementary school with John Maestri, Ron Maestri's son, and we were at Lake Castle in New Orleans East. And so I would bat boy a number of games. Mostly I was down in the bullpens. I was kind of like chasing foul balls and hanging out with the pitchers down in the bullpens. But I every once in a while I was in the dugout, and my job would be to help make sure the double bubble gum box was full.
Well, you gotta
I thought that was the coolest thing. They had a giant box of double bubble gum, the little individual ones that they had in the dugout for the UNO baseball team. And man, I would take a handful of that, put it in my pocket, thought I hit the lottery.
And I remember we go to play UNO. I don't know if it was in the fall or the spring, and they had the blue Converse cleats. Okay, with the little and back then everybody either had black
or white.
We wore white at Southeastern, but most people wore black. LSU wore black, Tulane wore black, Nichols wore black, but they busted out the blue, and we thought that was the coolest thing ever. They got blue spikes on, you know.
Did you play at the new stadium? Did you make it to the lakefront, or was it wasn't?
No, it was at the lakefront.
So you were able to play in the new? Yeah, because did you play? You played at the old stadium.
No.
You always played at the lakefront?
The old stadium by the Chamber of Horrors. No. We always played them at.
Okay. I didn't realize.
I tell my people and my kids and all my grandkids, home plate and the mound were the same spot. It's the same field. It just doesn't look like that anymore.
Right.
In fact, somebody was talking about Pete Taylor Park in Hattiesburg the other day. Now, when we played Southern Miss, it was on the other end of campus, was their baseball field, closer to the football stadium. So, and that's totally different now in Hattiesburg. Yeah. But everywhere else, Southeastern, Nichols, Southern's home games were at Goldsby College. Right. But Southern and Nichols and Tulane, UNO, McNeese and Lafayette, all those fields are exact same location as when I played 40 years ago.
Yeah, I remember as a kid growing up in New Orleans, driving to Lakeview Playground from New Orleans East. We would cut by UNO mostly, and I remember the old UNO baseball stadium was on their UNO school campus, and then at some point in the late 70s they moved it to the lakefront stadium, and it was called Maceball, and it was a beautiful stadium at the time.
Hard to hit it out of there. Yeah, the wind blew in off the lake.
Yeah,
I like pitching there.
But anyway, we were before the break. We're talking a little NBA, and now talking a little Major League Baseball. I was saying. I was talking to Pete Grifol. He was an All-American catcher at Florida State, late 80s, early 90s. Saw him last Thursday. I was down in Miami for a couple of days celebrating Louis Garcia's 50th birthday.
Wow, Louis.
Play a little
Happy
golf.
Birthday, Louis.
Yeah, and Pete, who's the bench coach for the Kansas City Royals, and has been for years. And Pete was telling me he got notified on. I think I saw him Thursday night. We talked, but then also on Friday got a phone call to be ready to go on Monday. So today I think he was going to camp. They were bringing in all the coaches, bringing in administrators. They were narrowing down the 60-man roster. They're going with a 60-man roster right now to bring into camp because of COVID and everything. And they were coming up, but they were under the impression, the owners were under the impression that they felt like they were going to get a deal done this week with the players. Now we know that the players basically agreed to and would have wanted and been standing by this. They want an 81-game schedule. They want half their pay. They want the prorated amount. Normally play 162 games. They agree. They want to do 81, so they want half of whatever their salary was going to be for the year. They want that. The owners have said no, and their best bet is they've come to a 60-game proposal at a prorated amount, so that basically 38% or whatever of what their salary would have been for the year. The players have not voted. They were supposed to vote yesterday. They have gotten some more different language, some new language that came in from the commissioner's office that they want to evaluate and talk about. So at some point this week, the players will vote to accept the deal or not. The owners are kind of dug in and have said take it or leave it. 60-game schedule, prorated amount, take it or leave it. 38% or so or whatever is better than nothing. But and owners, the players have said we will do half, and that's it. So we'll see what gives. Do you think there will be Major League Baseball this year?
I do not. Obviously, I could be wrong, but I don't think they're going to agree because, hey, the collective bargaining agreement expires at the end of the 2021 season, which is, 15 months away if they get back on the calendar. And I just think there's too many reasons why the players aren't going to vote this in. Number one, the health concern and issue. They've had to shut all the spring training facilities. All the spring training will now take place in the actual home ballparks. Florida and Arizona are closed. And I think players are concerned about it. Can they bring their families? I mean, what's going to happen? And then what happens if they all get together and they start a little practicing and 30 of them test positive, you have to put the brakes on it and wait for 2021. I don't think we'll have baseball this year. There's a local kid who plays in the big leagues who I watched throw live BP a couple of weeks ago. His agent told him he didn't think there'd be baseball this year, but that was 2 weeks ago.
Right.
It's ever changing. I mean, they could vote tonight and say they're playing, and then what I just said is wrong. I get that, but I don't think we're going to see it. And then they're talking about, I get the universal DH, that they're never going to have a pitcher hit again, but tie games will be okay, and then we're going to do like girls softball, extra innings. We're going to start with a runner on second base. I sure hope they don't do stuff like that. That's silly.
I'm going to say I disagree with you from a standpoint of I believe at the end of the day, players have wives, they have commitments, they have financial commitments, and they're going to play. Something's better than nothing. I think Major League, from an owner's perspective, the league would take a huge hit if they don't have a season this year, especially if other leagues have it. Go. We know NASCAR's moved forward. We know PGA has moved forward. We know some soccer leagues in Europe have moved forward. We know Korean baseball is going on, and because we're watching it late night on ESPN. I think MLB would be hurt if they miss this year. I think at the end of the day, players are going to take something better than nothing. Now, certain players may decide not to play. If I'm Steve Trout. Mike Trout. I'm sorry, Steve Trout that'd be an interesting story.
Yeah.
He comes back from retirement.
Yeah.
He threw slow as it was. He really
throws slow.
He might really fool him. But Mike Trout, is it worth it for him to risk his health, to risk his future, for him to play for a third of the contract? I don't know. Maybe or it doesn't matter. I'm not talking about Trout said anything, but there may be some players that say, you know what, I'm not comfortable for whatever reason. And I think they have the right to sit out.
But they're going to have to do what their union, the Players Association, if they say you got to play, they're going to have to play. And, but again, they can't. If Trout says, hey, I'm not doing it, I'll see y'all next year at spring training if you have one. There's a lot of layers.
I think that's the compromise. I think that if
the
owners allow them to do that.
This is what the owners, owning a baseball team is not a cash flow business. You're not in it to make cash and you're counting your money Sunday night, how'd the weekend go. You make money in baseball when you buy the team for $600 million and you sell it for $1.2 billion.
Right.
That's how you make, if we open a hamburger stand, we're counting the money every night. How many hamburgers did we sell? That ain't how baseball goes. So when these owners cry, and they have the antitrust agreement in place from Congress, they don't have to reveal their books. So they cry poor, and we're going to lose $600,000 a game if there's no fans there. We can't do this. Well, so what? Everybody has suffered. Look what happened to the Louisiana economy. Look what happened right here in Baton Rouge. Many friends I know that own businesses couldn't reopen them. So, stop the whining, owners, okay? And they signed a thing. You talk about when everybody didn't know what was going on. They signed that they would pay a prorated salary. There was an agreement signed in March when they first tabled the season. Said, all right, everybody go home. We got to see what's going on. The owners now wish they wouldn't have signed that.
Right.
And now both sides look bad in this, because then your people say, well, Trout makes $37 million a year. Why won't he go play baseball? Come on, it's a game of baseball. So they both look bad. And nobody's going to win. I don't think we're going to have baseball because the fear of, if we go do this, how does that affect the next discussions for the collective bargaining agreement, which have to take place next year? It's deep. It's deep. You got to make a deep dive, as they say.
No, it's deep, but most people, when they think about Major League Baseball salaries, they think about Mike Trout. Or they think about, Stanton or somebody like that. Most people are Mikey Matuk, struggling to stay in the big leagues. If they are in the big leagues, they're at a prorated amount, maybe $500,000.
The guy I talked with 2 weeks ago that I watched throw live BP, he's with the big league club, and he's on league minimum.
Right.
So that's not life-changing money.
Right.
If baseball goes away,
right,
he's got to go find a job. Mike Trout doesn't have to go find a job.
Right.
Alex Bregman doesn't have to go find a job. Right. But Mikey Matuk will, and the guy, Jacob Wagasback, who I'm talking about, Dutchtown kid, Ole Miss.
Great story.
He's 5-5 in the bigs last year. I watched him throw live BP at Runnels a couple weeks ago.
Big boy.
6'6", every bit of it. I got a name for you to remember. Oh, yeah, he has filled out from his Dutchtown days when Pelican used to do his games. Name for you to remember, Preston White.
Okay.
Single-A pitcher for the Giants. 6'6", 235.
He's been working out with Wagasback?
Throws 5 pitches for a strike. I watched him. I was leaning on the bubble, watching him 2 weeks ago. If that dude don't get to the big leagues, nobody
Something's
gets there.
wrong, huh? It's going to be a dogfight to see what happens. No question about it.
Well, I'd love to. Look, I want to be able to go home and put the baseball game
Sure.
on. I'm a big Rangers fan, but I don't care who's playing. I want to watch baseball. But I don't think I'm going to this year.
Did you watch the McGuire Sosa documentary on
No.
ESPN?
No.
Oh man, it was so good. It was so good.
I like the Jordan one.
The Jordan. You watched all of them?
I didn't
Yeah.
miss a minute.
Yeah, you need to
Phenomenal.
watch the 30 for 30.
If I would have saw
on
the
McGuire
Jordan
Sosa.
documentary when I was like 14 or 15, I'd still be pitching. That's how powerful I thought that stuff was.
Yeah.
The drive, the determination, and
Right.
every high school kid, it should be mandatory that they watch that.
Right.
To find
see how
if
focused
you want
and
to
how-
achieve something.
Yeah.
And then the best part of the whole thing was when he got cut from the JV team, and his mama said, "You just gonna have to work harder." She
Right.
didn't go find another school,
Right.
or switch travel
Or
teams,
call the coach
or call the
and
coach
and get
call the
fired or
principal and
something.
say the
Right.
coach did a bad job. She
Right.
said, "Son, if you want to play basketball, you got to work harder."
Right.
We know the rest of the story.
Yeah. College football right now. Oof. Reports coming out as many as 30 LSU people connected. You know, every school's got COVID cases.
Ronnie,
Every
you and
school's-
I could have
Right.
COVID right now sitting here.
I know
at scoreboard.
people that have COVID that have no symptoms, and they went and got tested because someone in their circle had it. The thing that they've got to try to figure out, and I think for our society to move forward, is can you spread COVID if you have no symptoms? Can we do that or not? You know what I mean?
Nobody knows. That's the issue.
You know, that's the thing. I mean, like, let's put some people that have COVID and are dormant in a room with people that don't have COVID, and let's see if they can get it. Because the World Health Organization, which I know they're much maligned and all that, they came out a couple weeks ago and said it's looking like their data is showing that you can't spread COVID if you have it, but you have no symptoms. So you have the antibodies. Oh, I've got COVID, or I had COVID, or anything like that. Unless you are gagging and wheezing and you've got the symptoms and you're hurting and you feel like you've got fever-like symptoms, that's the only way that it looks like that it can spread. That would be a game changer for society if we knew, hey, you had COVID, you have COVID, but you have no symptoms. Your fever's fine. You're breathing. You can hold your breath to 30 seconds and not have any problems. If you can do all of that and not spread it, then that would change the way we live our life.
I can tell you this: if Budweiser prevents it, I'm good.
No Corona?
No, Budweiser prevents COVID. I'm never going to have it.
Unbelievable. All right, we'll take our final
I thought
break.
you'd get a chuckle
That was
out
good.
of that one.
Final break, we'll come back, rack things. By the way, Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend, everything getting pushed back to December, mid-December, our Hall of Fame
I'm
induction
going.
weekend, which is
I'm
supposed to be
going.
the last
Can I
weekend
get
of
us a
June.
chair with you?
You
Can I
can
sit
get
at
you.
your table?
Get you 10 feet apart, six feet apart, whatever. But that's late June. Our golf tournament has moved to October 4th and 5th, so we've postponed everything to the fall. Fingers crossed that we'll be good to go in the fall, and it'll be a fantastic class with Phil Robertson, Lou Dunbar, talking about Harlem Globetrotters earlier.
Incredible,
and a whole lot more.
incredible basketball guy.
Sports Shorts presented by the Bears will return right after this. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Ronnie Rance here with you alongside Tommy Chrysan. LaBerge Casino, a sponsor. By the way, LaBerge Casino open. The buffet is open. Stadium Sports Bar and Grill. You've got the 18 steak. The casino floor is open. So go on by there. Check them out. Get you a little reprieve from all this COVID talk and go have a good time. Get back to normalcy, at least for a little while, at LaBerge Casino in Baton Rouge. TK spent a lot of time out at the ballparks with USSSA. Got a lot of stuff going on. As you see people getting back into travel ball, how is it different now versus before? Does it look the same from your perspective, or is there things y'all are doing differently?
We had 26 teams out at Central Sports Park on Lovett Road this past weekend. I would say a couple of dozen people wore masks when they came through the gate.
Most did not?
Most did not. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had several hundred people come through both days, mm-hmm. and maybe a total of 20 people I saw with a mask. Social distancing,
not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some people conscious of it. Now, we spray the dugouts in between games, and they're very tidy at the concession stand, which is run by Breck, which spray in, and they got hand sanitizer everywhere. And a lot of people are reaching for the hand sanitizer when they come through the gate and all of that. But I would say it's probably 95% of what it looked like before.
Yeah.
And there's some people that you can see them spreading out down the foul line in their chairs, a little bit. They may be thinking social distancing, but
what about the crowds, old people, less grandparents or anything like that?
I would say it's about the same.
Okay.
I mean, I've a lot of grandparents. Especially the younger the kids, the more the grandparents
sure.
come. When the 13-year-olds play, there's less grandparents. But when you got them 9s and them 10s and them 11s, them grandparents are out there to watch the game. Of course, hot, very hot. So, people are bringing their little fans with them. I'd say it's 95% normal now that we've been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks. That first weekend, people with social distancing, hand sanitizer. We weren't doing concessions. There were a lot of return to play guidelines that the governor required us to do in order to play. And Rudy Macklin does a great job with all that, and he helped us with these guidelines, and we're still enforcing them. We got signs up everywhere about social distancing. So, USSSA, Capillary USSSA is full speed ahead.
About 30 seconds left. High school football is. I work obviously with Red Zone fundraising in the high school football fundraising world. There's some parishes now that are shutting down indefinitely high school workouts. They've been doing voluntary work conditioning. They've had some COVID spikes. I think that's going to spread. I think you're going to see more and more schools kind of go with this indefinite. Do you think there is a scenario where there's college football or pro football but no high school football?
Could be. Again, nobody really knows, but I think August 1st is kind of the high school football thing. If they can get everybody in and start working August 1st, then maybe they start playing at the end of the month. But are they going to be fans or not? Again, there's a lot of unknowns. Even we're dang near at the end of June now, and there's still a lot of unknowns.
TK, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
having me.
having
See you on the golf course Thursday. You got to help me read some putts, though. That's my weakness.
We'll work on that.
All right. Joel Davis will be back with us next week. Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge Casino. Of course, you can check out Sports Shorts Radio every Saturday morning from 10 to noon on ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge. Myself, Buzzy Hyde, and Joel Davis will be at Carter Plantation this Saturday. Have a good week, everybody.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.